Tilly, enjoying a nice long summer's evening stroll and just putting a few thoughts in place. Okay, the leadership race for the Conservative Party. This is concerning on a lot of levels, but principally at the moment so firstly the two runners and riders. We still have Mr. Sunak and Mr. Truss, evidently going to be spending the next weeks, I think it is, popping off to hustings around the country to air their thoughts with various different right-leaning, I think is the fairest way to put it, commentators, I assume, who are going to discuss these points with them. Nick Ferrari had his ride at the helm while they aired their thoughts and were questioned from the public, I think, who were paying for the privilege, party members, various different Conservative Party members. And it's bizarre to me what those party members thought were apt questions, but it's just as bizarre I don't think that the Conservative Party at the moment is doing what the primary function of the Conservative Party should be. And to me, the primary function is that they supposedly show a modicum of economic prowess when deciding policy. They aren't, essentially, not that I can see anyway. I can't see any economic analysis that suggests really definitely what this Truss is doing or is proposing has much basis in reality. Generally, I think the economic consensus has shown that tax cuts are not a great way of stimulating the economy very effectively. Certainly not the tax cuts that she's proposing. I think there might be an argument that you could possibly promote some kind of stimulus, but you're certain that every time it's been attempted before, I think without exception, although I'm happy to have some very specific cases put to me where you can show that running a series of tax cuts has stimulated the economy to a point where the increase in economic activity has paid for the tax cuts. There's not an example of it that I know of. I can't see any. Happy to look at some that show that that's the case. Generally, what seems to happen when you go through that process is you effectively improve the position of the wealthiest top percentile, be it 10 percentile, 1 percentile, at the cost of the bottom 10 percentile, 20 percentile, 50 percentile. It varies, but generally that's pretty much what happens. This doesn't seem to me like that's going to build a good, long-term, settled, balanced, comfortable society. What it seems to me is it's likely to do is cause ever more discontent. So how you structure the taxation, that could arguably be put together with certainly a more balanced building of the economy. So possibly, although we have a very high level of taxation at the moment, where that taxation lies, where the weight of that taxation lies, is an issue. So possibly pushing more of the weight of that tax burden further up the economic scale would put you in a position where it may stimulate the economy, or altering the, so we have at the currently we have a fairly low okay, let's discuss one specific point of the taxation, the tax code that is up for discussion. Business tax. Currently business tax is pretty low by both historic and international standards. Certainly compared to Margaret Thatcher's time, massively low. The general economic consensus appears to be that when you lower business tax, what generally happens is, instead of that money being reinvested, what tends to happen is it is paid out in dividends to shareholders and to board members. They go quite often through a process of share buybacks, which effectively means that the price of the equity, the stock, rises because the company is interfering with the market to acquire that stock and pushing up the demand for it, which in turn pushes up the price for it, which effectively allows the board members to take a bigger bonus, because a considerable amount of their bonus is based on the stock price. It doesn't seem like it's a very productive thing to do, and it used to be banned. It was something that was got rid of in the early part of, or the mid part of the last century, and I think with pretty good reason. Certainly sensible long-term planning doesn't suggest that's a good idea. So pushing up business rates tends to mean that people do one or two things. They tend to find ways of investing in their own business, because effectively you then reduce the profit margin because you've taken out various investment programs, and that reduces the business tax burden. So it could be argued that that's good, certainly, but not necessarily. Small businesses, I think it's something that, again, it needs to be staged. You need to have different turnovers that allow different things. So entrepreneurial activity should be rewarded. Certainly small businesses, as they grow, it would be a good idea to allow small entrepreneurs the benefit of having certain tax breaks. That would seem prudent. That would seem like it's going to stimulate economic activity. So having these blanket decisions without explanation or examination from experts, people who know what they're talking about, not just right-wing commentators who really don't, who are presenting a pretty narrow case, be sensible. That would allow people to make informed decisions about what they are and aren't voting for. And that would allow people like Mr. Sunak and Mrs. Truss to their ideas to be open to some analysis to see what they know about it. At the moment, Liz Truss is saying this is conservative. It's conservative thinking. Well, I don't think it necessarily is. Just cutting taxes randomly, that's... If that doesn't actually stimulate, and the weight of analysis suggests that is going to be effective at stimulating economic growth, then it's twaddle. It's just saying words. But she's actually grown in my estimations at her political ability. She knows when to shut up, which is kind of something I probably hadn't credited her with after some of her historic statements. But she knows she's got nothing to gain until she's minimising her public scrutiny. She's using making very general statements that can't be analysed too closely, and there is no one there to actually examine them with any depth. Richie Sunak went on a show the other day with oh goodness me, I can't think. He had some analysis done by a decent. He had a decent level of examination of his things, and he struggled, but not half as much as I think as Liz Truss would. Anyway, at the moment, I think it's like making a choice between losing 2 fivers or a tenner. There's not a lot to pick between them. There's nothing there that would suggest to me that the answer to any of the United Kingdom's problems are going to be given any real examination, any particularly positive. But I'm open to seeing that I'm wrong. But at the moment, there's an awful lot of lying going on. Certainly, although funnily enough, not when they are discussing and arguing with each other. Then you do get some truth. There's a CW, Commercial Workers Union representative called Peter Stefanovic, who puts together some nice, brief, short videos analysing what these people actually say and putting it together. And what they're saying during those hustings, when you pop that together, you've got a pretty good idea of what's going on. And it's not good. But we'll see.